Welcome everyone. I am Roxanne Allen, Chair of the Baltimore Education Coalition, and I'd like to thank the representatives who came out today. We'll be joined by our mayor, as well as Dr. Thornton, the city delegation, our city council members. Also, we'd like to acknowledge Dr. Alvin Thornton for coming out, as well as Principal Carr for hosting this event at her beautiful school. We thank her for that. Thank you to the BEC membering organization that turned out in large numbers during this legislative session. And we worked with the city delegation to restore our education funding. We stand here today as a unified city once again to protect our children from devastating budget cuts that will take critical resources away from our students in our classrooms. We've been doing this for 5 years. Since 2009, we have fought back over $125 million in state cuts to city schools because we know that schools need adequate funding to hire great teachers, paraprofessionals, and support staff, as well as pay for critical programs such as after school. And recently, with our city and state leaders, we were able to secure almost $1 billion in building funds for new schools in Baltimore City. However, right now, we're deeply concerned about the state education funding for our children, especially in the light of the events that recently happened here in Baltimore. This session has ended, and Governor Hogan is still holding critical funds from our children. And the clock is ticking as principals struggle to figure out which teachers to keep and which programs they'll have to cut. We've been talking to principals across the city about their budgets. We're hearing that the schools are going to lose teachers, support staff, guidance counselors, field trips, and other important resources for the students. This is not a good time to take any resources away from our children. That's right. This is a step in the wrong direction. We are here to send a message to Governor Hogan. Don't shortchange Maryland. Don't shortchange Baltimore City. Release the GCEI funding right now. $68 million and 13 school districts in Maryland are being withheld. $11.6 million is for Baltimore City. Our children need it now. We need our money. Thank you.
That's right. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Phoebe Bird-Reed with the Education Reform Project of the ACLU of Maryland. We're here today to ask Governor Hogan to release the funds our children desperately need, $11.6 million for Baltimore City. I want to make 2 points. State funding for city schools in the governor's budget did not increase. And I would appreciate a call upon the press to make this clear in your stories, and there's information for you in the press packets about the details. Whatever small amount of increase took place across the state based on enrollment increases, that increase did not come to Baltimore City. The governor took away $11.6 million of existing funding from the children of Baltimore. But this funding is there now in the budget passed by the legislature. We are asking you, Governor, please just release that funding so that our children do not lose programs and the support of the teachers they need. Secondly, I want to reemphasize the commitment our state has made under the state constitution to provide every child with an adequate, that is sufficient, amount of funding for a good education. In 1994, the ACLU filed a Bradford lawsuit on behalf of Baltimore parents and their children. The court rulings in that case led to the establishment of the Court Commission and to pass changes to our education funding law. The GCEI was a part of that law. This law was a promise to the state's children that sufficient funding would be provided so that all of them, regardless of the poverty of their family or the jurisdiction to which they have been born, would get the support they need in school to succeed. Baltimore is not getting sufficient education funding to provide for all the children's needs. Releasing the $11.6 million will at least be a first step toward keeping that promise and keeping school budgets safe from severe budget cuts. Now we'll be joined by Delegate Maggie McIntosh, Chair of the House Appropriations Committee, who can tell us about the budget that the General Assembly passed.
am going to do is do this. We are not the same Baltimore that we were 2 weeks ago. We're a better Baltimore.
Yes.
And we are one Baltimore. And we can be better because we are listening to our youth, our students. And in a few short weeks, our students are going to leave these schools, and we want them to have enrichment programs through the summer. Those are the kinds of things that are on the chopping block. You know, middle class and upper class kids in counties across the state, their families, if you're like my brother and sister-in-law, have camps arranged for those kids. They're busier than I am. They are enriched all summer long. But a lot of our students are not. They go home. They have nothing to do. They have no job. They have no internship. They have no school that has an open door for them to continue their reading and math studies. We need this $11 million to make sure that we don't cut enrichment programs for our students both in school and during the summer. That's how important it is. Now, I saw the governor in a press conference after he came to Baltimore and provided needed safety for our citizens. He said that while he was in West Baltimore, nobody said, I need GCEI.
Oh, jeez.
Let me tell you something. I'm chair of the Appropriations Committee. I didn't know what GCEI was either until I got on the committee. I didn't know what it was. But I'll tell you what. He said he heard that they needed jobs. They needed jobs. Every parent in Maryland, when their student or when their son or daughter says, how do I get a job? How do I make sure I get a good job in life? That's the first thing out of the parent's mouth. Get a good education. So I'm asking the governor today, if you didn't hear GCEI, maybe you heard jobs. And we need to make sure that the students in Baltimore City schools are prepared for jobs for today and for tomorrow. So I ask for the release of that funding. Amen. A partner that the Appropriations Committee and Budget and Tax Committee, the entire legislature during our quest to figure out a way to restore the school funding. A partner who came down to work with us during this critical time, and that is our new CEO of Baltimore City Schools, Dr. Thorpe.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by certainly extending my gratitude certainly to our mayor, who's been a champion for our children, our city council, our city delegation, and a member. Look at the community members that are here today. And what my congratulations and thanks is saying, one, thanks for showing up for children. That's important to me. Thanks for standing up for children. That's important to me. And more than anything, thanks for speaking out for our children, because sometimes our children don't have the voice. This has been a challenging budget season, and I'm really proud to say that we're not where we want to be, but we got other places to go. The governor talks about being safety. Well, I'm going to tell you, this is a safety issue. It's a safety issue for our children. It's a safety issue for our families. Baltimore has gone through a very tumultuous last few weeks. We cannot allow that to define our outcomes. This money, let me be perfectly clear, is for schools. Schools and only schools. It's my hope that I can restore dollars so we can certainly mitigate the challenges that we have. I'm in classrooms and schools a lot over the last several days, more than ever. And I have an opportunity certainly to talk with principals. And I hear the challenges about increased class sizes. Let me be clear, you cannot learn a class of 35 or 40. I hear principals talking about split classrooms. What I mean by a split classroom is 5th and 6th grade, 3rd and 4th grade, but sometimes 3 grades within a classroom. That's not an ideal learning environment, certainly for our children. And let me be very clear, the whole issue around mental health and support. Our children sometimes live in situations that are trauma-driven. Our kids need opportunity to talk about this. I walked through schools last week. The kids looked up to me and said, I don't understand what's going on. But what I'm saying, what's going on hopefully in the state of Maryland, also in the city of Baltimore, we're going to create a way that they certainly can be successful. And more than anything right now, I'm concerned about summer, folks. I'm concerned that as Delegate McIntosh talked about her family, our kids won't have those opportunities. I need kids engaged in meaningful activities this summer. We made hard decisions this year. I need to restore those opportunities that every youngster gets up during the summer, goes to a meaningful experience, whether it's extended learning or actually going to a place where they're going to see new learning. The mission of the city schools, the mayor and I talk about this a lot, is creating a way in which our kids can have the same dreams and aspirations as any other child in the state of Maryland. That our kids get an opportunity to go to college. Our kids get an opportunity to go to work. That is a challenge in cities like ours where we have so much poverty. Schools do more than teach. We're making future citizens. We're making the folks that are going to stand behind us in years to come to support their children. To overcome the effects of generations of poverty and things of that nature, it takes good education. If there was anything better, I would be talking about it today. Education is the key for us as a city and certainly for us as our children. In addition to teaching and learning, our schools need good resources. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to really invest in our teachers so our teachers were prepared to come back and greet our young people as we move forward. So today, I'm respectfully and humbly asking for full restoration of the full GCEI funding because it's critical. It is vital to the future of our city. Truly, it is a safety problem. And we're of the belief that if we can create the safety net around the children of Baltimore, we're going to have not only a good year, but we're going to have a good future for our children as they take their place in leadership like these folks are standing behind us today and to ensure that Baltimore will be the city that we want it to be and that we know it can be. And I get an opportunity now to introduce my colleague, which I guess somewhat my boss, I would imagine too. I got to be careful here, but someone who has been with me every step of the way during the conversation and has really worked very hard to figure out what can we do more to actually provide opportunities for kids. And that's none other than our own mayor, Stephanie Rollins. Please give her a round of applause.
Good afternoon. It's been a busy couple of weeks. Well, how about this? Hello, everyone. Hello. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you for a very important reason. I want to thank Dr. Thornton and his leadership team for really articulating the specific needs of our young people around this school funding. I want to thank the chairs of our delegation, Senator Catherine Pugh and Delegate Kurt Anderson, I believe is here somewhere, hiding in the back. There you go. Thank you very much, Senator McFadden, the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, Delegate Maggie McIntosh, Delegate Rosenberg, Delegate Washington, Delegate Haynes, I want to thank City Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark and Councilman Henry Boat, very active in school, both care deeply about the future of our young people and understand that we cannot afford to shortchange our young people. So you all know I'm from Baltimore. My father grew up in West Baltimore. My mother grew up in East Baltimore. In Baltimore, we call that a mixed marriage. You know, the West come together. But my dad grew up in Poe Homes, and I mention that because so much of this started, you know, the incidents from the last few weeks started in public housing around Gilmore Homes. And he grew up in Poe Homes and was proud of that to his dying day, that he grew up in a loving environment. Yes, they might not have had much, but they had each other. And they had dreams and aspirations for their young people. And that they knew, it was instilled in them and they instilled in us, that it was education that provided that gateway out of Poe Homes and into the life that he and my mother were able to provide for us. And we're grateful for that. So I grew up in a home where I knew, you know, we might not have designer jeans because, you know, my dad wasn't into that, but we had the best encyclopedias that we could do because he wanted to make sure we had that opportunity, that all of the world's options were laid out before us and we were prepared for them. That's what this money will do for our young people. So you might not have heard somebody say GCEI, but if you were here, you could see that people need opportunity, that people need a path forward. People need a key to their future. And what is that? Education. We cannot afford to shortchange our children. So I would encourage our governor to write that check. You could do it today, before the day is over. There's nothing holding you back. Provide that pathway forward for our young people. Somebody might not have asked for it, but if you can see the need and you can provide an option, you can provide a pathway forward, do it. Do it. Do it for Baltimore's children. Do it for all of the children throughout our city. They deserve nothing less. You know, this is hopefully not one of these areas where we devolve into our lesser selves and want to play politics when children's futures are on the line. It's time now to do the right thing for Baltimore's children. So I want to bring up somebody who's been on the front lines in more than one way. Someone who fights for the delegation and is such an incredible representative in Annapolis. I said you've never seen a fight you didn't like, as long as it was right, and that is Senator Catherine.
Yeah.
Before I begin, let me deliver some good news. For those of you who don't know, when I came to Annapolis, and Senator McFadden, you know this well, one of the premises that I went to Annapolis on was that we were going to change the compulsory attendance age to 18. We've been able to do that. But here's what you need to know. When I went to Annapolis, we were the #1 dropout school system in the state. We have now decreased our dropout rate to be at #3, which means we're just about near where the state's average is. So what that means, you all, is that we have more children attending our public school system than ever before, at least in the last decade. I think that deserves a round of applause. That is through the work of the Baltimore Education Coalition. It was there every single year that we brought that legislation till we finally got it passed. But when we say we have more children in our public school system, that means we need more resources. And so I too am standing here with everyone, including our mayor and everybody else who's standing here, to say we need our funding. We need our funding because we want the progress to continue. What you all saw last week was not all of Baltimore, but it is a part of Baltimore. And it's a part of Baltimore that we should all be concerned about. And as the mayor said, and everyone else has said standing here, education is the key. Education is the way out. Education is the way forward. And we need our funding so that we can continue to push forward. I look forward to discussions. I'm in Annapolis on tomorrow. I know, Maggie, you are as well, and everybody else. We look forward to having those discussions with the governor. As the mayor's already said, release the money. We need it. Baltimore needs to continue to move forward. And the only way that we do that is that we invest in our children. Thank you for this opportunity. Honor of introducing someone who advocates continuously, even when you don't see her. Marietta English. She's always in the community, and I see her all around the country advocating for children throughout the nation. So thank you so much for your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I stand here in solidarity with the city delegation, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake, and Baltimore City Schools CEO, Dr. Thornton, calling for Governor Hogan to release the GCEI funds. Yes, contrary to what many believe, the teachers union and the school district do work together. Before going any further, I want to take a moment for the men and women who serve in our armed forces. So join me in a moment of silence as we remember those who are in the distant shores, far away from their families, who are serving, even during times of peace, to protect our democracy here at home. Let's have a moment for them, especially in this month of Memorial. Thank you. This morning, we are here calling on Governor Hogan to do his job. As others have stated, this funding is vital to our schools all across the state of Maryland, but particularly here in Baltimore. Those before me have laid out the intellectual reasons for the funding. We know all of them. We know the governor should feel obligated to do this to honor the state's commitment to the Thornton funding formula. We know that the funding is a long-term investment to the economy of the city. We know the progress city students can make if we invest in them. But let me also tell you about the real impact of how this money plays out to our teachers in the classroom. We see music teachers who are coming out of their pockets to buy instruments and sheet music. We know the positive impact that arts can make on our young people. It's an investment that will enrich our students and our city. But to ask our teachers to come out of their pockets for this expense is unfathomable. I also heard from physical education teachers in some of our smaller schools who don't have equipment that they need to maximize student participation in activities. Here we are having a national conversation and trying to take action on childhood obesity, and we have school staff doing their part to address children's health, but they are being held back because Governor Hogan is holding up our GCEI funding. Finally, without these funds, we may be facing expanding class sizes because we will lose more of our paraprofessionals and teachers, and they are essential to our classrooms. Without them, we will be asking teachers to do even more with less. Less supplies, less personnel, less assistants. We can't ask our teachers to do more with less and blame them if we don't get the results we want. When the governor was in West Baltimore recently, he told one media outlet he didn't hear people in the streets coming up to him asking for the GCEI. Well, I didn't know what it was either. For a while, beyond the obvious, that few people knew what that was, to discuss educational funding by this name. What did Governor Hogan expect in the middle of a chaotic, emotional, and intense time in Baltimore City? He said folks were asking for resources such as jobs and recreation centers. Wow, what a great thing. Releasing the GCI money does exactly that, Governor Hogan. That money can be used in some of our amazing community schools that are increasing across the city. The mayor has given her support, and so has the city council. Those community schools act as recreational centers and all-around resource centers for the students and adults in their communities. Keep in mind, this isn't a question of additional money. This isn't a question of finding the money. All Governor Hogan has to do is release the money. The General Assembly has already allotted to this money, and it will give our teachers in the classroom the resources they need to continue the upward trajectory of education in Baltimore City. Our teachers are willing and qualified. Our students are eager and intelligent. Now, we need Governor Hogan to give us the tools to succeed. It's there now. Let's get it. Let's do it now. God bless you.
The BEC, Baltimore Education Coalition, would like to thank everyone for coming out this afternoon and joining us for this important cause. It is major that our children receive this money so that we can move on in our prosperous school year. Funding that cannot be used for any other purposes. The GCI money is there and waiting. I would like to thank everyone for coming to speak. B.B. Bernie, Delegate Maggie McIntosh, Dr. Gregory Thornton, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, Senator Catherine Pugh, and Marietta English. Thank you all for coming out. I would also like to thank the Baltimore Education Coalition members that are in attendance today, represented by Advocates for Children and Youth, American Civil Liberties Union, Baltimore Curriculum Project, Cathedral of the Incarnated, City Neighbors, Comprehensive Housing Assistance, Downtown Baltimore Family Alliance, Elevate Baltimore Division of Humanum, Greater Homewood Community Corporation, League of Women Voters, Maryland Out of Time School, MOST, Reservoir Hill Improvement Council, and the York Road Partnership. We thank you all for coming out to support this event. And we also want to thank all the parents and supportive neighbors that came out to be a part of this. This is going to conclude our and I have to say, also thank Principal Carr again, who is the hostess of this event at this beautiful community school, which does have a recreation center. So this is going to conclude our press conference. The individuals that standing here before you are available for individual interviews. We thank you. Have a good day.
Yes, sir.